The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to mhhseyeswideopen@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap Moor, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. We start off with our sister, RVBey, kidnapped through a joint venture between Mantis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Daoud Il under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Il, Kusu Ra Kush Bey under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patah Amen Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Il, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Il, Kush Amir Bunch Il, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Il, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Il under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Il and Crystal Il, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia, or the baby of Patricia Bey, kidnapped by the Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Tyrone Fisher Ill and Martis Sivion Ill under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Ill Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Chere Bey under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bey under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Avalle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natural Tohudi Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Brian George Mills Bey, kidnapped by Blades Corporation under the purview of Florida, Judah Ill and Anwar Ill, kidnapped by Philadelphia Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Ramor Ill, Amada Ill, both kidnapped by Chester Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Iman Ill, kidnapped by Lynchburg Corporation under the purview of Virginia, and Khalid Albert Ill, kidnapped by Las Vegas Corporation under the purview of Nevada. Thank you very much.
All right. Peace and love, Islam. Welcome to Moorish Heritage. MHHS. Eyes wide open. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, Ms. Raim Alice L.
Peace and love, honey. Peace and love, Moorish, MHHS.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Love. And Rosmaria Bey.
Islam, peace and love to all.
Islam. We do not have Cujo tonight. Cujo is traveling. However, let's see, before we get started, I trust you guys are ready for Sons of Allah this Thursday.
Oh yeah, we definitely gonna do that. Absolutely, we on.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So for everyone listening, Sons of Allah is this Thursday at 9 p.m. So make sure and check it out. Of course, tomorrow we have class at the National Theater, Moorish Heritage and History School, and the presenter will be Abdullah Bey. Doors open at 6:30. Class begins at 7:30. So if you're in the area, make sure and stop in and pick up some information. If you're not able to stop in, you can pick it up, or this is Blog Talk broadcast, because we broadcast the classes live. All righty. So let's see. The chat room is open. Excuse me, for our internet listeners. Want to send a big shout out to the family listening near the various corporations around the world. Great Britain, Islam, family listening near France. It was surprising to me to go in and see the demographics and see we got some more over near the corporate construct known as France listening. So Islam and welcome to the Moors listening near the corporate construct known as South Africa, Islam over there near Japan, near the Netherlands, Islam, Brother Albert said, family listening near the Philippines, Panama, Islam to the family over there near Panama. Big shout out to the family down there near Barbados. There's a whole gang of them down there that's declaring and building and listening Islam. To the family near the Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. Let me think. Did I forget anyone? Everybody is waking up all around the world. To the family near Cuba, Brazil, Venezuela, Mexico, Islam, thank you for joining. And for the family that we have yet to connect with, peace and love. To our callers, thank you so much for joining us each week, filling the phone lines before the broadcast even begins. Thank you for joining, for sharing, and for building. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We had an amazing sister standing on law this Sunday. It was great. We had two sisters who gave birth, one in the hospital, the other one did a home birth, but both of them, the objective was met. Have the baby with no adhesion, no birth certificate, no nothing, in and out. Big shout out to the brothers that was on standby, repelled the hospital employees. The sisters did their job, and a big thank you for sharing. And if you're a sister or if you know the sister who's maybe in the she may be pregnant, she might be thinking about getting pregnant, please direct her to this past Sunday broadcast, because she must be informed prior to the birth of the child. All right, so thank you again to the sister Christine and Shantae. Thank you so much, and of course to the entire Simmons Tracer family. Thank you so much, because that whole family is just popping off the chain. All families should be, popping and declaring and just, doing it like that family. They're a wonderful example. We have other families across the pages who are excellent examples as well. So it's a great thing when you have families that can be a great example and help and assist and just, we each learn how to actually unite the family. That's what it's about, uniting the family. So big shout out for that. Tonight's broadcast, I'm so excited about it because it brings home a lot of what I've been saying for years, and then to find some additional documentation that affirms that your risk, your studying. When I say you, I don't mean me alone. I mean us as a family, as a people. It's great when it affirms that your risk, the studying that you've been doing, even if you feel like you haven't, been successful, you really have been, because the energy alone is what makes the change. So today's broadcast is entitled "Your Liberty Regarding Travel is Unalienable." Tonight we will listen to a short clip prepared by a son with no title, by the way. However, this demonstrates that the right to travel is for everyone, conscious and unconscious Moors as well as modern Europeans. This is not open for debate as long as you know that. Even the United States Justice Department has put out a press release on this, if you know how to read between the lines. So please join us as we research, analyze, and inform ourselves so that we are prepared. Are you prepared? I had the press release. I want to read it. I'm going to read it afterwards, but what I would like to do is play this. It's actually a video, but I converted it to audio so that we can all listen together. Before I start, you might want to take out your pen and paper, because this brother is looking up in the Bouvier and the Black Star Dictionary. All right? Now, there are instances where his language is not the best language, meaning he needs a little bit of correction. However, overall presentation is right on the money. And the way he tells it is very well done. So it's 18 minutes and 36 seconds. So if it's all right with everyone else, I'm going to press play.
According to historical record, the United States government, or rather local and federal governments, have accumulated well over $500 billion over the course of the past 83 years in the automotive industry. Not by selling automobiles, but by merely selling the manipulative, distorted, non-existent law to all Americans that they are required to have a driver's license in order to legally drive an automobile in the United States. Realistically, a driver's license is required for one who's conducting commerce on the highways. So when you are personally driving, or rather using personal transportation on the highways, there is absolutely no law requiring you to have a driver's license to drive. According to the 1856 Bouvier's Law Dictionary, John Bouvier defines the meaning of a driver as, quote, one employed in conducting a coach, carriage, wagon, or other vehicle with horses, mules, or other animals. A driver must possess reasonable skills and be of good habits for the journey, because if he's not, and should an accident or injury occur, both the driver and his employers will be responsible. Documented on January 12th in the year 2000, the U.S. Supreme Court case of Reno versus Condon states, quote, the activity licensed by state DMVs and in connection with which individuals must submit personal information to the DMV is itself integrally related to interstate commerce. There is no need to have a driver's license for personal transportation, like going to the store, dropping the kids off for school, going to work every day. There is absolutely no requirement or law. It is all done under the color of law. It is all implied that this is the, quote, legal way to do things. It is a critical difference that you must understand between lawful and legal. Let's start with legal. Legal means having a formal status derived from law, often without a base in actual fact, while lawful means warranted, authorized, or permitted by law. Now, I want to talk about the DMV, or rather the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's a corporation doing business as the DMV. It was established by the Vehicle Act of 1915, but it was later reduced to the Division of Motor Vehicles within the Department of Finance in 1921. What they have done is implemented such methods as a driver's license, vehicle registration, tags, etc., in order to extort money from the Americans, us, the people, under the color of law. These methods guarantee profits for the DMV, merely due to the fact that they are a corporation, which is a for-profit business or organization whose sole purpose is to provide a benefit to society in addition to making a profit for shareholders. Now, I want to break down the difference between a privilege and personal travel. Personal travel is a constitutionally guaranteed right. Freedom of movement, mobility, and the right to travel are all human rights. Contrary to what the system tells you, travel is not a privilege. Operating your vehicle is not a privilege. However, driving your vehicle for commerce, or rather driving your vehicle for profit or for hire, then and only then are you required to have a driver's license.
Okay, sir, your ID?
I do have an ID, sir. But I don't.
Have it with you?
I do have it with me, but under the 4th and 5th Amendment, I'm not at liberty to give it to you for an infraction like you're trying to write me right now? I guess you're trying to write me for an infraction.
Okay.
Is that correct or is that incorrect? Or?
What's your last name?
I have a family name. I don't have a last name. I have a family name.
Okay, well that's fine. Last name?
I'm not at liberty to give that to you, sir. I'm sorry. Did you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of this republic? And what is your name and badge number, Mr. Corin, just for future reference?
Mr. Corin, 5095.
5095. Okay.
Okay.
You're saying just to verify this, because I don't want to proceed unless I know what's going on here. I got pulled over because I was going. It was a speeding infraction in a 40-mile-an-hour speed zone. You said.
All right, that's correct.
Okay. Under Texas Transportation Code, Chapter 201, subsection K, the black and white speed limit signs are manifest and maintained for them commercial vehicles right there. Any limousine, any commercial commerce vehicle, this is a personal good that belongs to her. We are exercising our right to travel unharmed, unmolested, unless a person or property was damaged or a crime has been committed. You're telling me that you pulled me over for, just to verify, a infraction that does not apply to me. Is that correct?
No, you were pulled over for going 65.
65 in a commercial zone. Under UCC code 107, sir, that does not apply to me. This is a commercial good. This is not a registered commercial motor vehicle, okay? So I would like to be free to go, Officer Corey.
I'll tell you what. Promise me you'll slow down.
I promise you I will slow down.
Okay.
That is a promise.
You will do that.
I will do that. And I appreciate your oath, and I appreciate the blood that was spilt to exercise what we're doing right now.
Licensing cannot be required of a free people. In order to have a driver's license, a requirement of your surrender of a right, which I'll go into in a sec, in order to comply with the restrictions of the driver's license and stipulated. According to the case of State versus Spokane, the right of the citizen to travel upon the highway and to transport his or her property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business differs radically and obviously from that of one who makes the highway his or her place of business for private gain in the running of a stagecoach or omnibus. Operating a private vehicle within the 50 states for private business is a right, not a privilege, which it can be taxed. Under constitutional and common law, the right for all free citizens of the several states to drive private vehicles cannot be infringed. The requirement of a driver's license to legally operate a private vehicle is unconstitutional and a violation of all American citizens' constitutional rights. All Americans are unenfranchised sovereign citizens and authorized under statute at large of the unhampered use of all navigable waters and all common law highways, roadways, and byways, which are used for transportation, either private, public, or commerce, anywhere in these United 50 States of America.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I've worked a compromise. They are going to cite the vehicle. We're not going to tow it. And we'll let the courts handle it.
I'll deal with
that. Is that agreeable with you, sir?
I'll deal with it in the courts.
Okay. You can argue the same argument you gave me.
I will.
Okay. Since the vehicle's not operating at this time, it doesn't matter to me if you have a valid driver's license or not, but is there any way you can show, since you're claiming ownership of the vehicle?
It is my vehicle.
Can you at least give us some sort of, what's your last name, sir? Because lawfully, when there's a state vehicle code violation, we can actually ask you for your ID.
No,
okay?
That's only if you're signed on under that contract, and I'm not signed on under that contract.
So you're claiming sovereign citizenship?
Right.
Well, the problem is,
right,
when you're on United States territory, state of California, you're required to abide by all state and federal laws.
I'm required to abide by the laws that supersede. If you have a law, you can't make a law where one has already been created to prevent that law.
Can you speak up a little louder?
You can't make a law where one has been created to, you can't make a law against another law.
Explain to me what the law is that says that...
I already showed it to you. It's stare decisis, the law, the Supreme Court already ruled that I'm operating well within my jurisdiction.
You're not required to register your vehicle. You're not required to pay taxes to the government.
Look, hey, I am a taxpayer. That's one thing, because I believe in school and paying for the schools and stuff like that. I pay taxes. That's fine.
Some of the issues you're talking about, I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Right.
However,
I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Taxes, I register my vehicle like I'm supposed to, and it's not for tracking purposes. You know what that vehicle registration is?
Look, it's a tax. It is.
But you're saying it's an unlawful tax.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. It's been ruled against already in the Supreme Court. And I'm not trying to be a jerk to you. I understand where you're coming from, but understand that I'm required.
I'm trying to read. I know you're trying to make a point, right? I agree with you. Okay. I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am not angry. I'm not upset with you.
Okay.
And there's probably some of the arguments I actually agree with.
Okay.
Okay. However, I'm trying to reach a compromise here with you.
Okay. Let's compromise.
I don't want you to come out of the vehicle.
Okay.
And because your vehicle shows no previous history of...
I know.
Any kind of failure to register, any parking tickets, any of that stuff up to this point, we're willing to go spirit of the law and merely put a citation on the vehicle, and that's it.
You guys
let you argue your point in court.
You guys can cite the vehicle.
Is that fair?
I'm not going to sign it.
No. It's not a citation against you.
Mm.
It's issued on a parking ticket.
It's a parking ticket is what you're going to issue.
Which documents everything. Because you are not, technically you're interfering, but I'm being reasonable at this point. Okay? I'm going to be reasonable.
I'm not interfering.
Spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. Is that reasonable?
I go by the letter of the law. The law of the land is the United States Constitution, the Supreme Court decisions, which have ruled in my favor.
You're basically saying individual state laws are illegal.
No, what I'm saying is that the California Vehicle Code, according to the Supreme Court,
everybody else,
according to the Supreme Court decision, that what California is doing is unlawful, and it's been ruled against. It's been ruled against already. It's been ruled against forcing people to have to do it. Forcing people to have to do it.
Your vehicle in every state.
Okay, that's neither here nor there, though. It's already been ruled against. But again, you guys can cite the vehicle.
I'm not citing you, sir.
I say the vehicle. You can cite the vehicle.
I'm not. I mean, technically, according to state law, are you technically interfering? Yes, but I'm overlooking that.
I'm not interfering because it's my vehicle. I have a vested interest in this matter.
All right. This is what I'm going to do for you. Instead of me making a decision here, I'll let the judge make a decision. Okay.
As long as this means me driving away in my vehicle, that's fine by me.
Okay. Now, I'm just advising you, current state law, according to the state of California, says you have to have your vehicle registered. And I'm warning you, not threatening, just warning you that state law also says if your vehicle has expired.
I know the law.
Okay.
I do. I've read those vehicles. I'm not trying to.
So you understand?
I understand those. I understand that those codes exist.
Okay. Your argument is that they've been ruled against by the Supreme Court.
They've been ruled against by the Supreme Court.
Well, then what I will do is allow you to argue that
a
traffic judge.
Traffic judges aren't even capable of hearing this type of case law. It'll go to appellate court anyway. So, I mean...
That's fine. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is a great place to hear it, too.
Right.
Okay? If you want to argue this point...
And I will.
Okay? You've not been a threat to myself or my officers in any way.
I know.
And that's why, had you been violent or aggressive...
I know.
I would have handled it in a different way.
I know that.
Okay? Therefore, you know what? You've been, for the most part, agreeable and cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? I'll let you have your day in court then.
Okay.
Without having to...
I'll deal with it that way.
Push the issue any farther than it really needs to go.
Okay.
Okay? I'm not agreeing with you or disagreeing with you. I'll let the judge determine.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine by me. I mean...
And if it pushes it to the issue where the Supreme Court makes, instead of making a relatively ambiguous decision...
Mm-hmm. It's not... It's pretty clear-cut to me.
No, it's not.
It's pretty clear-cut.
It's wide open for interpretation, which gives you the room to argue. Okay?
Okay.
Gives me room to argue, too. But I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
Because I think that's best handled by legal representation and attorneys. Don't worry. Hey, guys, we're good. Hey, Gene? You guys can go ahead and clear. Go ahead and let the guys know. I'm going to handle this different way.
No problem. I got his fingerprint written down. Verify it. He's covering it.
Sir?
You want to verify the VIN? There you go.
That's all I want to do. Okay? And then I will be more than, since you have been more than cooperative, I'll be more than happy to let you argue in court.
Right.
Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. All right, without giving me your last name, my first name is Craig, all right? I'm glad you didn't throw in the argument that I don't have any legal authority either. I know your doctrine says this badge means nothing. Only the elected county sheriff can be,
right.
Is the way you feel?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, you're the one with the gun, so, I mean, I'm answering to you right now.
My hand on the gun, baby.
But it's on your hip.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
there. It's there.
But did you threaten my safety in any way?
No, that's because
So why should I pull my weapon?
But you have your weapon though.
What's that?
You have a weapon though. I don't have a weapon.
Okay.
I mean.
But am I relying on it? No.
Yeah, you are.
How am I relying?
Because if none of you had weapons, I wouldn't even be sitting here right now. I'd have left when that first officer was talking to me.
Okay. All right. I'll let you have your day in court. That's
perfectly fine by me.
Because you and I, individually, are not entirely qualified to ultimately argue the issues at hand. I mean, we can look at them ourselves and have our personal opinions, and we can discuss them ourselves. But as far as the United States Supreme Court has the ultimate authority as far as making the original determination,
they've determined.
Okay, so, you know what?
They have determined.
I'm more than happy to let it go that route.
Okay.
Had you been violent, that'd have been a different story, but you're not.
There's no reason to get violent.
You've been respectful.
I know my rights.
No, you've been respectful.
Right.
You've at least given me the courtesy of doing my job.
Right.
You presented your point in a very articulate manner, so you know what? That's more than I get from most people.
And I can appreciate that.
Okay?
I can appreciate that.
So, my office will be finished here shortly, and you'll be free to leave.
Okay.
Is that all right? All right.
Allow me to explain how this license is forfeiting your rights. The real purpose of this license is much more insidious. When one signs the license, he or she gives up his or her constitutional right to travel in order to accept and exercise a privilege. After signing the license, a quasi-contract, the citizen has to give the state his or her consent to be prosecuted for constructive crimes and quasi-criminal actions where there is no harm done and no damaged property. These prosecutions take place without affording the U.S. citizen of their constitutional rights and guarantee such as the right to a trial by jury of 12 persons and the right to counsel, as well as the normal safeguards like proof of intent and a grand jury indictment. These unconstitutional prosecutions take place because the citizen literally is exercising a privilege and has given his or her, quote, implied consent to legislative enactments designed to control interstate commerce and enterprise under the police power of the state. In conclusion, the citizen is forced to give up constitutional guarantees of, quote, right in order to exercise his or her state, quote, privilege to travel upon the public highways in the ordinary course of life and business when accepting a driver's license. I'm just here to make you think.
That concludes that little snippet. What do you think about that?
It pointed out so many different things that has been said, and as it applies to today, it just I'm just like, wow, this is
I know.
crazy. I mean, right? Because that's what's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? At minimum, that's what's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? I noticed a few things.
Before you go in, I just want the listening audience to know, one, the first recorded municipal employee detainee was no driving instrument. The second one was no registration or expired registration. Both of them continued on in their travels. The first one, he said, hey, just be safe. The second one, I'm going, this is the audacity of this particular municipal employee playing good cop, bad cop. This is the good cop, bad cop. I'm going to let you have your day in court. But if you recall, I believe this was a brother. He said, your court can't even hear me. It's a joke. It's a joke. And then I want to say one thing here. This guy says he's a sovereign citizen. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, but you have sovereign rights. All right? I want to be clear. There is no such thing as a U.S. or U.S. citizen. All right? So that's just some clarification on the language. However, the whole spirit of what the brother was bringing forth was absolutely on the money. On the money. They asked him, the modern European, they asked him for his name. He said, I got a family name. For Moors, there is no such thing as a family name. There is a family title. All right? So these are just little things. And then the last thing I want to be clear on, I'm going to say this. Everybody listening now and in the future will get this. The license is not a contract. It's sales, and the element of contract is void ab initio. It's a trick. But once you know the trick, it can't be used against you ever again unless you choose to. All right? And then he also said that this I got to research this. Because he said the Vehicle Act of 1950 created the Division of Motor Vehicles, which is under the Department of Finance. I'm going to research that and find that. However, I have no doubt that it is more than likely accurate because I know that the whole motor vehicle program comes out of the Interstate Commerce Act, which was established in 1887 to protect people from infringement of railroads. So I have no doubt that it is accurate. It's just that I will be researching it because if it's under the Department of Finance, that means that the whole Department of Transportation has to be under the Department of Finance. So I'm going to be researching that. And guess what? You ought to yield the floor. But I do have something else to read, and that is the for immediate release by the Justice Department, and this is actually dated November 7th, 2016. But I just want us to. I know Ms. is probably chopping at the bit to say something. So I'm going to read the Justice Department, let Bree after.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before Keeper says it, I got one sentence to say, and I'm looking forward to reading the Justice Department. It sounds like to me that, well, first of all, if we know the law, I mean, because what they mentioned was constitutionally secured rights, Constitution of which we are supposed to be enforcing because it is what, as they mentioned also, both of them, the law of the land. So I figure what it sounds like to me is that if we would all start talking the same way, which means we know the same, it's about having knowledge. These two talk because they know their rights. They know the law, which the law is based on inalienable, unalienable rights, period. The Constitution was written to protect them, period. And as you have said 1,000 times, to protect them from corporations such as this DMV agency, and municipalities and anyone at all, from violating them. And that's why the prophet said to enforce the Constitution. He said to enforce it so that you are not, molested by who? Other citizens, whether they're corporate citizens or what. And so what I saw is that, or what I see, is that if we would all talk the same language, this thing would be over with overnight because we all be intelligent. What did he say? Speaking in an intelligent tone. And that's kind of what I see. But here's the problem. I mean, here's the situation. If you don't know, you can only be and say and enforce what you know, which is the problem. You have to know your rights. You have to know the law that preserves your rights. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't times when you have some of these policy enforcers, as we have said, and this, as you have said, you've seen the good and you've seen the bad. And some of you out there have been ran up against the good and the bad in that, you know, they don't care what you say because they're cowboys or because they're really Roman soldiers, and they just want to, you know, be who they, like you said, Annie, like, okay, I'm going to let you go. Talk to you condescending like they're the authority, and you got to follow them when the stuff is the other way around. You know, they're there to secure the people's rights. But, of course, the people don't know their rights, then, of course, they get taken advantage of, which has happened for for generations. So we're not saying that they haven't been cowboyish and rogue and stuff, but, however, I don't want to say but. However, if the people knew and the people started enforcing in an intelligent tone, believe me, that wouldn't happen that much at all. It eventually, not at all. And when you get to know who they really are and that they're not operating when they hinder you and say, oh, this is law enforcement. When you get to know they're not enforcing law, which means they're not law enforcers. That's another part of it. Then you know how to speak with them because you know who they are not. So when that's what it sounds like to me. If we all would, you know, like universe means one verse, means one word, which means the same word. And if we would all do that, but we have to have knowledge of our rights, which is what the law of the land, the Constitution, is established for, to protect, preserve, and secure those rights. And lastly, you heard him also say, well, the state of California. Well, if you knew the law, you would know that the state of California can't make any laws. And that's why, what did that brother say? He said, you can't make a law to override that which already is. However, that's what they've been doing, right, because many of the natural living, breathing people have been saying they're citizens of a quasi-national or corporate state, which means that they've admitted and given up by trickery and deceit or by lack of knowledge, whichever, it doesn't matter, their rights as flesh and blood beings. They've given them up by saying they're a citizen of a corporation. That's like being a board member or being, you know, a part of a association with its bylaws and corporate standards. That's really what you're saying because they're corporations. So with that being said, you yourself have unknowingly opened the door for them to treat you like you have no rights because you're treating yourself like you have no rights. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. That being said, just analyzing. Go ahead.
I just want to give the creator of that little snippet of information the proper credit. The Appalachian Dale Calloway. He is on YouTube. He's got quite a few little snippets of the untold truth. But when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is so well done. And it was so well done in such a short space of time that I couldn't pass it by. I couldn't pass it by. So you know, absolute kudos to Dale Calloway who created this little video. It's the untold truth about the driver's license. And actually, if you go to the moorishnews.wordpress.com page for today's syllabus, it's got the link to it there, as well as the Justice Department letter, so that you can check those both out. So with that, before we
would you say he studied? Would you say that he shows that he's been studying?
Absolutely. Yes, he did. He studied and studied well. And you know, I'm not saying now, the fact that he apparently doesn't have an ill or bay on his appellation, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's not aware of the Moors, or if he is aware of the Moors. But one thing it does let you know is that the liberty, secure liberty, is for everyone. Whether you have a title.
Huh?
Like, one of y'all got crazy feedback.
It might be me. It's me.
Well,
it's me. I'm turning it down. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Whether he is a declared Moor or not, demonstrates that the secure liberty of the people is for everyone. It ain't just for modern Europeans, and it ain't just for Moors. It's for everyone on American soil. So with that, I'm gonna let Ms. do, because I know he's chomping at it to say something, and then afterwards we'll read this Justice Department news press release.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just from what I heard, I like to share my thoughts on that, because I noticed a couple of things that were said and what was actually being said behind it. Everything about the demonstration was great, but I noticed that even from my experience, there was some parallels where he was like, "So what you claiming to be a sovereign citizen?" And I'm guessing that was a modern European who he was asking that. I'm not sure. I didn't see the video.
No, it was the brother.
Okay. All right. Cool.
But
he was asking the brother.
Police was a modern European.
Right, indeed. So he asked the brother if he was a sovereign citizen. We already acknowledged that, that's a false citizenship. However, when he said that, I noticed the next reaction of the policy enforcer was to low-key try to claim territorial jurisdiction via the fact that he was like something about the United States territory. So when you hear that word, you already know territorial jurisdiction is what they're really talking. And in some way, even if they're respecting you, they try to establish that because they're trying to keep their claim or justify their position of that authority, like you was mentioning, we're going to let you go. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a win. I mean, leaving out of that situation, not abused and in handcuffs and things like that is a great thing. You know what I mean? And considering the circumstances, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't cry about that at the end of the day. The victory is in the fact that you were able to walk away because, as we celebrate that, I find it to be a sort of paradox. That's great. For me, I don't know. We was talking about this earlier, just living from your experiences and things like that, while that happened, right, they didn't have a quote-unquote driver's license, right, and they got to move smooth, which is a beautiful thing. But something to really think about is, like, at the same time that's happening, the European murderer who killed or murdered Philando Castile just got found not guilty, and he had a license. He was reaching for his license when he got shot, based off of what was said, and what the footage provided was that, and what the sister claimed on spot, you know what I mean, is that he was reaching for that driver's license instrument and got murdered. What if he didn't have one? Would that have been the case? I don't know. I'm just looking at it from the paradox point of view, because it's like they say you got to have these things in order to, survive and live out here. But that's proof that, you know, even with that, you can get murdered. And excuse me, that's not to put fear in nobody. I'm just showing you the contrast that with them having the so-called up to par, you know, driver's license and good standing type of thing, people could still get murdered with that instrument. And I think that that's a point that has to be emphasized when you consider the contrast. Those are great things. You know, we do have these rights, but what is it about this aspect of, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I'm glad that it was a brother, but sometimes I'll be like, damn, like, do they see us as enemies collectively? Because that's crazy. You know, the fact that, well, it's not crazy, but it's just odd. You know, it's just odd. It's a exhibition of the fact that everything is outside the norm. You know, right now. And I mean, I don't know even want to say if it's normal or not. A lot of people became desensitized to what's really good out here and what's going on. As you was talking about good and bad, seeing the good and bad and the yin and the yang of the situations in real time, is that, you know, if we were doing without these instruments, is this like a comparison to show that, you know, things being different is not necessarily odd, and that some people are so indoctrinated with the Europeans say, if the Europeans say that you better do it mentality, you know, there's an explanation owed for that. Specifically, you know, different people who downplay or look down on Moors who are exercising the right to travel and saying that you need these things. I mean, we talk in real time. People are dying behind having these things. People are you know, being cheated, all these different things based off of following this construct of how you're supposed to live based off of a European institutionalized society. So, I don't know, at the least, you know, it was made clear. The least I could say is that should be a testament to the contrast of moving free and then not blaming anybody, you know, but the aspect of moving with those corporate documents and settling for that. And another thing I just wanted to add on before I yield the floor, I'm just talking to you, whereas I was riding with Hamatio earlier today, and we was riding past, you know, these houses that was abandoned, and the grass was growing on the side of the house. And in that moment, looking at that, the synopsis of the message I got is that, okay, we know the earth is intelligence. This is where we're at, which is an important place to be, which is why people feel so impelled, specifically colonizers, to name it, to put boundaries of what portion, claim, or act like they own, and you're subject to this, you know, boundary type of thing, is that claiming, you know, what's yours, what's a part of you, because we recognize the fact, most Moors do, that, you know, we come from the earth and things of that nature. Yes, we come from our mother, but I'm just saying, like, this is a provided planet or realm, and one thing that it has is intelligence embedded in itself. So that being the case, the earth having intelligence enough, when we're talking a territorial jurisdiction aspect correlating to us, that it will claim back an abandoned house and start growing over the house to the point where if nobody takes care of it, the earth is going to claim it, and you might not even have known it was there years later. It just looks like a part of the earth. Different places, you know, mounds, pyramids that have been abandoned or overgrown by the earth itself. What I was realizing is that as a people coming from this land, as we claim, that it's only natural that anything that's in the position of abandoned, we need to reclaim, because Mother Earth does it herself. And the fact that this is the breast of one mother that has given us up, the planet Earth herself. And these are different aspects of just being in tune with the elements and seeing how nature flows, because you did go in nature's law is very powerful. So when you see how she acts, it's like, okay, it's different messages and different things, the energies. And all of those energies, as you mentioned, good and bad, you put that in real time, and it's like, who's to say, you know what I mean? Seeing the example of how the Pilgrims move, instantly, sovereign citizen, they want to claim territorial jurisdiction, United States territory, claiming portions of the earth that are unnatural in essence because it's subject or second to the actual existence of the planet itself. And while we hear, it's a lot of things going on that it just seems like it's a crazy imbalance or paradox. Again, whereas Moors moving free, European moving free, no problem. They say you got to have a license, you reach for it, you get shot, you get murdered, and they're walking off not guilty. And I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but it's happening very often. So I would say that in law, that's something to consider. And that's what I wanted to say about hearing that at this particular time. It just goes to show that there's nothing wrong with a little different outside of the so-called quote-unquote norm. And with that,
so
I yield the floor.
This display here shows that it's good and that it's possible and that it's happening. And I think in essence what you're saying is just like anything abandoned, the earth will claim it. So if we abandon our rights, then someone else has claimed it. And if we claim them again, such as this display tonight, where the two things that we just played, or the thing that we just played in the two stops, by claiming your rights again instead of abandoning them, we can get this thing back. I think that's really what you're saying as it pertains to what's happening, which is a good thing, and keeping it in a good spirit of life. Because what was
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what. Right. If you don't know your rights, you don't have them. If you don't know someone's rights, yeah. And in essence, that's what's been happening all along. Is these corporations and municipalities, they've been claiming, your rights, violating them, through trickery and deceit, so that they can make finance off of you and them. So it's time to just claim back your rights. And this display tonight showed that very easily. So it'll be over soon if we continue to have knowledge and speak intelligently about our own rights and actually claim them. That's what I get from it. It's
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's my notes? Let me see. Something else I want to make sure that I cover. Let's see. Oh, the case Reno versus Condon. I remember that case because it was actually a case that I used when I got my first ticket. Was it my first or second ticket? Back in, I want to say 2008 or 2009. Because you don't know, Reno was the United States Attorney General. So that case was very impacting. What she said was very impacting. She let it be known that the whole motor vehicle program is a commercial activity. And if I'm not mistaken, that case was about somebody had brought a case against the Department of Motor Vehicles because it was found that the Department of Motor Vehicles was selling people information or knowledge. And so a lot, that all came out in the Reno versus Condon case. So for people who like people, it's another thing that came out in that case was for anybody who received jury duty. The jury duty list comes from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Whoever has a driving instrument, that's where they get their name from. But it ain't just that. The Department of Motor Vehicle is literally selling your private and confidential information. Now, if you are engaging in some sort of commercial activity, then that might not be so bad because everybody's supposed to know, okay, what kind of commercial activity are you engaging in? What's the equipment you're using? And so if anything happens, it is known where to find you. So that's an interesting case. I suggest people look into it. The other thing is, whenever a vehicle or an automobile literally is classified as personal property. So, in this case, unless the personal property was reported stolen, then they don't really have there is no need for them to, because they went through this activity of checking the VIN number of the automobile. Here's the thing. You don't have a need to check the VIN number unless this particular personal property was reported stolen. Since I know that I am the sole inheritor, not owner, inheritor of the property, who reported it stolen? I would like to know. All right? I mean, I'm just saying food for thought. One of the biggest, you took so many wonderful things in this, but another thing that was said in here is the guy said that the driver's license was a tax. How many people know that? It's an excise tax. Excise taxes are unconstitutional. Look it up. There's case law that says that. So, but you got to understand, you have to understand why it is a tax, why it is an excise tax. You can't just say, well, I'm not required to pay taxes, but you're not required to pay taxes. That's basically what he was saying. Corporations and people who are engaging in for-profit, even if they say they're not for profit, they are. They ain't doing this stuff for free. Unless you're doing this for free, you're a nonprofit. None of these so-called nonprofit is really nonprofit. They're all in it for a profit. All right? So, but also another, when you see nonprofit, that's code for 501c3. So just keep that in mind also. And I think one of the last things, I'm trying to look at my notes, two things. One other thing he said was the municipal employee. Remember, this is a municipal employee alleging that he's enforcing California state law. According to the American Constitution, 1791, Article 1, first line, says all legislative powers shall be vested in the Congress. Article 2, all executive powers shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. That means that for the state to have any kind of executive power, not legislative power, any executive power, it has to be delegated from the President of the United States of America. So states don't have no authority whatsoever to write law. They can write statutes all day long, but statute administers the law. I'm going to say that again. Administer the law. It is not the law. It is the administration. It is the how to administer the law, but it is not the law. Be clear on that because that's a trick. All right? That's a trick question for you. They say that these municipal employees that run around here, they say that they are law enforcement. No, they're not. They're statute enforcement. They're enforcing statutes. They're only enforcing the policy of the law, but not the law. Homeowners' right to travel. It should blow up a long time ago because the whole premise on this Moroccan American soil, the whole premise is protect the people at all costs. Protect the people at all costs. Protect the people at all costs. Are you protecting the people? Is what you're doing protecting the people? You can't tell me that you have some power to write anything that you can use against me, the people, all right? I don't care where you're coming from. Every people who steps on Moroccan American soil is protected. So you can't tell me, oh, we created this policy to protect you that we're also going to use against you. Treason. And then you're doing it for profit. I don't get it, you know. Anyway, the last thing, infractions. Wherever you are on this continent, you need to go in online for that union state, and you need to look in there for any information you can find on infractions. Because where I am, they have a right-up there that an infraction, they are only authorized to impose a fine. They're only authorized, this is right from the CEO of the state, they are only authorized to impose a fine. Says it right there. And it also says infractions are not crimes. Says it right there. And that's in harmony with the state, with the law that we have. Because if a traffic issue is an infraction, we got the case law that says traffic issues are not crimes. They're not an arrestable offense. They're not. Because it's all based on the Department of Transportation. Really, it's all based on the Interstate Commerce Act. And it's all based on make sure the people are safe from all corporate activities, the buses, the trains, the subways, the airplanes, the trucks, all of those. Nothing is supposed to stop or hinder them from commerce, but they are bound and obligated to make sure that the people are protected in whatever they choose to do. But nobody has the authority to stop commerce. So none of the people who are going to the grocery store to buy food to cook for their family or themselves is engaging in commerce. I don't care what pieces of paper you got in your wallet or back pocket. All right? So be clear on that. All right, so now let me see. What's my time? I want to read this letter. All right, I think I'm doing pretty good here. Wow. I want to read this the Justice Department news release. This is dated Monday, November 7, 2016. Now, for those of you who are looking for straight language that says, hey, your right to travel cannot be waived, it's unconstitutional, forget about it. You better learn to read between the lines, because it's here in black and white. What I'm about to read to you, the brother on the video, he said that the whole motor vehicle program is a tax. He's right. It's for corporate employees and activities, but not the people, and not the corporate. When I say corporate employees, people don't even know what an employee and employer is. All the operations, not the people who do the work. All corporations are employees. All right? I'm going to say it again. All corporations are employees. Because every single corporation is a contractor of some federal agency, and that's how they get paid. The employer is the so-called federal government. The employee is any corporation that is contracted and is receiving any kind of finance. People who put their sweat into the job, they are called workers. they are not employees. So, I'm going to say you need to study that a little bit more, and you will gain further comprehension. Or I'll say study it and turn it over in your brain a little bit more, and you will gain further comprehension. So with that, I'm going to read this letter. I was amazed to have found it. I don't even know how I found it. But it is entitled Justice Department Files Brief to Address Automatic Suspension of Driver's License for Failure to Pay Court Debt. Now, you ought to know that every so-called court debt is as a result of sanctions, which is a tax. It's all a tax, all right? So, the Justice Department filed a statement of interest today in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Virginia addressing the constitutionality of state policy. State policies, not state law. State policy that automatically suspend the driver's license of those who fail to pay court fines or fees. The statement of interest is filed in Semi S.L. versus Holcomb, a class action brought by 4 individuals whose driver's license was suspended because they could not afford to pay fines, fees, and costs assessed by Virginia courts. That would also be the surcharge, all right? The statement of interest advances the United States position that suspending a driver's license is unconstitutional if it is done without providing due process and without assessing whether the individual's failure to pay was willful or the result of an inability to pay. As the Supreme Court has affirmed, the Constitution prohibits punishing a person because of his or her poverty. Now, some people tend to probably getting in a bunch right about now when they hear that word poverty, but it's all in proper content of how it is being presented. You, Moors, can never be in any status of poverty because you're heirs or you're beneficiaries of heirs. So know what that's saying. Also know that foreigners have created a system where the only means of exchange is Federal Reserve notes, which is not money. So don't get your pennies in a bunch when you hear the word poverty, because ain't nobody got no lawful money to be paying for nothing, and the people was never obligated to do so to begin with, all right? So let me finish. Go on, continue reading. The United States brief explains that the defendant's alleged practice of automatically suspending the driver's license of any person who failed to pay outstanding court debt without inquiring into ability to pay violates that constitutional principle. Without taking into account an individual's ability to pay, the practice results in indigent defendants having their driver's license suspended because they cannot afford fines and fees, while defendants who can afford to pay do not. The brief argues that if, as alleged by plaintiffs, are true, such practice violates the due process and equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. Let me stop right there. The brief argues that if the facts as alleged by plaintiffs are true, such practice violates the due process and equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, in this case, I apologize, but this is regarding Virginia. I'm not sure if Holcomb is an individual because I downloaded the case, but not the I downloaded the news release and I printed it, but the amendment would be the corporation. It's actually, they're saying it's the corporation violating the due process and equal protection. They're saying the corporation that got to know 14th Amendment applies to corporations. They're saying the corporation did it, which we know that is not possible. Corporations don't just check. The people who work behind the names of the corporation is the ones who did it. But I don't know if this person sued the flesh and blood being, or if Holcomb is the name of the municipal corporation, which would be out of order, which brings in the 14th Amendment, which makes this case what's the word? What is the word when a fiction tries to sue a flesh and blood being? Would have come to me anyway. But anyway, that last paragraph, it gets thrown out because, but you got to be clear, it's not talking about flesh and blood beings. So unless we know what corporation that is, that this 14th Amendment is referring to, what I'm going to do is in my mind, I'm going to say the corporation has to be a municipal corporation, and they're saying that they are violating their 14th Amendment provisions, which is due process and equal protection, which is unconstitutional anyway. But let's continue. In Senny versus Holcomb, the plaintiffs alleged that their driver's license were indefinitely suspended because they did not pay court fines and costs that they could not afford. Further alleged that 900,000 people in Virginia, or 1 in 6 drivers, have had their license suspended for failure to pay court debt. The department's statement of interest in this case rests on a fundamental principle developed in a long line of Supreme Court cases, quote, that conditioning access or outcome in the justice system solely on a person's ability to pay violates the 14th Amendment. I'm going to say they're using the 14th Amendment here because the party that is always attempting to extort is always a municipal corporation. So I'm going to say that's why they're always using, that's why they're referencing the 14th Amendment. The brief also explains that a driver's license is a constitutionally protected interest under clear Supreme Court precedent and that it cannot be suspended under the circumstances permitted in Virginia without adequate notice and a meaningful opportunity to be heard first. Quote, people depend on driver's license to get to work, access health care, and provide for their families. And so when their license is suspended for reasons that do not relate to public safety, it unnecessarily disrupts lives and harms communities, said Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Donna E. Gupta, head of the Civil Rights. Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I don't know. He must be having a problem. Go ahead.
Oh.
I'll see if I can reach out.
All right.
Y'all there?
Miss, you can't hear her? Miss? All right, I'm going to continue reading. Hey, Rob, can you send him a text to let him know we hear him? Let's see, where was I? General Vanika Group, the head of the Civil Rights Division, quote, this brief advances the department's robust efforts to prevent unlawful practices that punish poverty at every stage of the justice system and that trap vulnerable residents in cycles of debt from court fines and fees. Wow, that's a loaded statement right there. Hold on a minute. The article continues, the Constitution prohibits punishing a person for their value in positive ways, said U.S. Attorney John P. Fishwick, Jr. of the Western District of Virginia. It makes no sense to suspend this privilege because a person is poor. In recent years, the department has taken several steps to address unequal treatment of the poor in the justice system. In March 2015, the Civil Rights Division addressed a range of harmful practices in the enforcement of fines and fees, including the suspension of driver's license to coerce payment in its investigation of Ferguson, Missouri. In March 2016, the division and the Office for Access to Justice sent a Dear Colleague letter to state courts clarifying the constitutional limits on coercing payment of court debt. Plaintiffs in Steny versus Holcomb filed their complaint in federal court in July. The defendant is the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles. In October, the state's Office of the Attorney General filed a motion to dismiss the case. In its filing, the United States does not take a position on the factual accuracy of the plaintiff's claim, but instead addresses the appropriate legal framework for analyzing their claim. This is press release number 16-1305, and if you Google it, it'll take you to the Justice Department, and an attachment is, if you go to the bottom of the article, you'll attachment, download files, SOI-Steny versus Holcomb. So what I'm going to do is download that. So what I will do is I will make that available as well. Once we get off air, I will make that available so that if you want to read it, you can. And I suggest you do read it, because what you're going to find is that there's probably more information, good information, in the entire case that you want to be aware of. And you need to become more familiar with finding cases and reading them. Because sometimes started reading Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, which was very interesting, and although that case did substantiate a constitutional liberty, the case was very interesting. So that's the letter by the press release put out by the Department of Justice, and from what I got from it, if you understand what this letter is saying, this letter just, in my opinion, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, this letter just affirms people's right to travel. If you can't afford to get a if you can't afford to get a license or registration or register, then what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a ticket. The ticket is going to bring you into one of these municipal venues. They're going to try and flat fees, or actually they're going to make demands for income of you, and then they're going to say, well, since you can't give us the income we're trying to extort from you, we're going to go and cancel your registration and license. This is saying, no, you're not. You're not doing that. You're going to have to find some other way to extort. You're going to have to find some other way to get some income, because you're not doing that anymore. That's what this Justice Department press release just said. That's my opinion. If you have a differing opinion, let's hear it. I yield the floor.
You're saying that's your opinion, but that's what it's saying. And, like people will use the terminology. Even the policy enforcement said, well, it's a matter of interpretation. And the reality is that, no, it isn't a matter of interpretation, because there are, in fact, case laws that do come straight out and say what needs to be said in terms of the right. So, when we get into interpretation, but there's a case law that says we must interpret the Constitution for what it meant when it was adopted. You know what I mean? So, period. I mean, it's done. But, yeah, what you just read, see, this is the thing, and it seems like that he used the word ambiguous. No, it's not ambiguous. What it actually is, people, is that the Constitution is written to protect, preserve, and secure the rights. The rights already exist. They didn't come into play, after the Constitution. They already existed. And so when people try to violate them, then they'll go into, the res of it, let's say, the source and everything, and they'll go in and they'll look at it and say, oh, sorry, but what you just did violated the rights, violated the constitutionally secured rights, And what you just read, and many of the case laws that you read, as you said earlier, read between the lines. What you really essentially are saying to the people is you need to know what your rights are already, so that when you read it, you can see what's happened. It's the same as saying, if they tell you, oh, yeah, we just made a law, if you don't know what the law really is, and you don't know that they can't make laws, and you're going to miss it, you know? So that's really what it's saying, and that's why you were able to, what you phrased as, read between the lines, because you already know what your rights are. And this is our problem. We don't know what our rights are, so whatever they put out there, we have a lot of people who are, in fact, interpreting it incorrectly. Even the natural people are interpreting it instead of knowing that anything that comes out in that respect is to preserve the right. Anything that comes from statutes and policies and municipalities and corporations like that are not even law. And as you mentioned earlier, might be dealing with employees, but not actual people, because the employees, as you said, are the ones who are the employees from the employer administering some program that protects the people, blah, blah, blah. So therefore, those employees would have to follow certain things, of which, for instance, with the driver's license instrument, you know, they're participating in it. So those who are drivers shouldn't be driving drunk. Not that you should be driving drunk if you weren't, but, you know, those who are drivers, they have certain regulations to make sure that whatever they are, say, carrying as cargo, be it goods and merchandise, and or be it natural beings, as in a cab service or a limousine service, that those people are protected by them following those rules and regulations regarding the vehicle, that it is inspected, that it is working well, that it is whatever, that the rig that you might be driving for commerce, making finance for, that is in tip-top shape to carry other people or other people's property and things like that. Now, it doesn't mean that you ought not know that you ought not keep your private property in tip-top shape. I mean, that should just be a natural thing for people to want to maintain their own property in a, keep it maintained and running right. But, so, yeah, that's what you really mean when you say read between the lines. It means know your rights already and then recognize when they're being violated and when they're not. Islam.
Ms., are you there? She's having a little technical difficulty.
Oh, man, he's back. He's back. He had a...
Yeah, that's the hell, right?
He had a glitch.
Yes, yeah.
That was crazy.
I hear you.
That was crazy. Yeah, it just blacked out for a minute. But, yeah, all is well. That was an interesting read. Yeah, more so I'd rather hear from the people, like, because I know I missed a decent patch. I'm like, what's going on for a minute? But, yes, yeah.
All right. Well, look. If you want to, if you have a comment, a question, a concern, if you have even additional information that you want to share, now is the time to press 1 on your telephone dial. And let me further say, listeners, you guys need to get into the practice of pressing 1 and getting in the habit of speaking, because you're going to have to speak in front of the Supreme Court at some point in the future. So take this opportunity to practice speaking. Speaking about the topic of discussion, as close to the topic of discussion as possible, all right? But we don't exclude, because, this is about talking about everybody's rights and liberties spot. So we have our first caller, Brother Bakari, Islam. And I just lost Brian. Oh, wait a minute now. Here we go. Brother Bakari.
Greetings.
Hopefully, Roz. Peace. Let me see if I can find Roz.
All right.
Okay, we must be a what do you call it? What is it? Is it black box? Is today black box? Or is this a Mercury day?
Oh, you know what? On that note, acknowledge this. We right here on the summer solstice. You know?
Wait a minute. Well, yes,
yes
we are. Yes, we are.
That's on the 21st tomorrow.
Summer energy.
Yeah. Electric.
Yes.
It's electrifying. You know, that electrifying era of season.
Yeah.
Eat it. Definitely going to be a great season. You know? So definitely, this is great timings right now. Very divine time. We talk about divine timing. This is divine timing, you know, all your affirmations, things you work for to see manifest, you know, the past 6 months or whatever. You should see the good side of that coming if you haven't seen it yet. It's like I'm basically in retrograde and now moving forward. So plant your good thoughts up there, you know, to come down on the next half of the semi-cycle. So we get to the winter solstice and so on and so on. You know, this is a strong time.
Yeah. All right. So, Brother Bakari.
Yes. Yes, I have a question. Honors to the panel. Wonderful show. I love this topic. I have a question and I have a short statement. So let me give the short statement real quick, if I may. So my statement is not only is this license, this driver's license, unlawfully applied to your ability to travel. Or be a traveler, which are two definitions that are outlined, listed under a Supreme Court acceptable dictionary, such as Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. It also impacts your ability, in some cases, to rent an apartment, rent tools, to even acquire membership to certain facilities in some cases that would just benefit you physically or care for the family. And the other aspect of this that I want to now discuss in terms of my question is, do you think that the reading or that this document that was distributed or produced by the Department of Justice, do you think that that can be used for child support cases when individuals have their, for some reasons, they're unable to pay the fiat, though that is also another situation where they make finance offer you for an unlawful situation because child support is a civil matter. But do you think that this is applicable to that situation when they send out documentation via the Department of Revenue stating that, you haven't paid, and if you don't pay by X number of days, we're going to suspend your driving license / privileges? And that's my question.
Okay, wait a minute. What was the beginning of the question? I must have missed that.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, the beginning of the statement was just in reference to other ways that the driver's license instrument is used to put constraints upon the masses of people through these various other things, such as like you needed to rent an apartment, you must have it, and some places won't even allow you to rent equipment unless you have a driver's license. So they're compelling you to contract with this license instrument in order to receive or live life, But that's not the question. The actual question is does the document that you read a part of earlier that was distributed by the Justice Department or the Department of Justice, does that, do you think that it also applies to individuals who are being, whose driver's license is being suspended as a result of child support non-payment?
I would think yes, because all based on the license. It's all based on the driving instrument. Because yes, I do, because that would be a court fee. That's all based on a court fee, because because when it comes to child support, there's no that whole child support thing also happens under what they call the family court, which is equivalent to the traffic court, and as well as the tax court. None of these have any authorization in the American Constitution and absolutely function under English law. So what they're doing is they're making a demand of income, and then they're saying, well, if you can't pay it, we're going to suspend. And the Justice Department just said, no, you're not. So that also applies to people who, here's the other thing. If that applies to the driving instrument, no, you can't do that. Guess what else it also applies to? The passport. Because I know there's a lot of brothers out there who's trying to travel, and they're saying, well, no, you can't get a passport because you supposedly owe child support. But no, you don't. Because the issue of the child is between the mother and the son, not a third party that's not a family member. The same thing applies to the driving instrument. They're saying, okay, well, we're going to penalize you. Basically, what the feds is saying is, look, this is a federal program. You don't have the authority to suspend a license because somebody didn't give you your extortionate income. You're not doing it anymore. Now, I'm sure that the only reason they're saying that is because for the past couple of years now, the states and the feds have been taking a step away from these municipal employees because they know it's about to go down. And they want to be far enough away because as it is right now, when you read Title 49, all right, if you call up any of these federal agencies and you ask them about this driving instrument, you got to do it in an intelligent tone, and you have to do it with knowledge. If you stick with the fact that this is your right to travel is constitutionally secure, and that this driving instrument by their own document is for commercial activity only, you can either call them just to gain additional information, or you can write them, just a plain, you ain't trying to choke nobody. You're gathering information. You write to them, and they're not going to come back and say anything about, yes, this is for people who are traveling in their decided capacity. They're never going to say that. You're never going to get them to say that because these statutes that they write don't say that. The only idiot, uninformed people trying to say that is municipal employees, and they know they can get away with it because they are the ones who inform you or don't inform you, so they know y'all don't know this, so we can tell you anything. And that's what the guy on the recording did, right? He tried to tell him, well, I'm gonna let you have your day in court, as if you can. You have some control over that. Whether you come me and throw me in your tomb and leave me there for X amount of days, at some point I'm going to get out and I'm going to take your behind to the federal court. It's not even up to you. But these people, they are the ones who are in charge of giving us information or not. So they behave the way they do because they know they haven't given us this information. And many of us, they have discouraged us from finding information, so they know we ain't going to go look for it on our own unless it comes across the TV, which doesn't tell you nothing, or you get it from your homeboy or your homegirl. You ain't going to get it. That's their assumption. Because they're mentally conditioned up. Their assumption is that y'all don't know how to do critical thinking because we make sure we don't do that in these institutions. So how you going to learn how to do it? You ain't doing it in the home. We've seen your home. It's on the TV, all these South Central and Boys in the Hood. And look at this. This is what they project as this is what's going on in your home. So we know y'all ain't getting no critical thinking in your home. They see it. They know it. Look at these so-called music videos. Ain't no critical thinking going on in that. So they know.
Yes.
If we don't give it to you, y'all ain't going to get it, so we can take advantage of y'all all day long.
Well, that's certainly not what. So. Wow, this is really bad then, because that is certainly not what they're supposed to be doing. So now here we are blowing the whistle or finding it out or whatever, and there's resistance there because they're the ones that are going to, in the end, fall. They have got to fall for that. That cannot continue to go on, and it has been going on under threat, duress, and coercion, even when the people didn't realize that it was under threat, duress, and coercion, and of course fraud.
But it is. It's like, you know what? My daughter was watching what's that movie, Get Out, right? And I had already seen it, but I saw it, a little bit of it again, and what came to my mind was, see, I'm a woman, so I'm going to tell you from a woman's perspective, and most women will know exactly what I'm talking about. When a woman, there are women out there who are battered. They're in an abusive relationship. But as a result of that abusive relationship, they will move heaven and earth to get back to their abuser. That's a psychological damage. Many of our people today are demonstrating that same psychological damage. Because there's no way in hell you can tell me that y'all can go and promote this whole slavery thing. And the people that did heinous things to you, today you marrying, sleeping with, cooking for, laughing and carrying on with, that's a psychological damage right there. You are now moving heaven and earth to get with your abuser. That's a psychological damage. Same thing with abusive, battered women, domestic violence. That's domestic violence.
Crazy, huh? I wanted to, yeah. I wanted to. That's an excellent point. I wanted to mention that when you were reading earlier, you mentioned about the parties in the case law, Stinney versus Holcomb, and so I brought the case up, and I found that Stinney is the plaintiff, and that's the flesh and blood being Damian Stinney, and Holcomb was a commissioner, a state a commissioner of the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles. He was the defendant.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I want to say I'm not going to hold you up.
That would probably be some commissioners, probably the commissioner of some municipal corporation. Because usually I believe that's how they do it. But I think that's how they do it in that area.
Yeah. A lot of times they call them. Because that's what they have out here in where I'm near, and they refer to them as in some cases county commissioners.
Yep, and that's just another word for the because they're all corporations. I don't care what they're calling themselves, they're all corporations. So the commissioner is probably another word for. Actually, it's another word for the. Because before they were called governors, they were called commissioners. Yeah.
So,
that's what they were called, prior to governors. Yep.
Another that brings to mind another question. I just have a quick question. When you are preparing documentation to deal with these individuals who call themselves administrators, CEOs. Most of the time, you can very easily get information on who the administrator is, or who is, running the local office, or, because they're listed on websites. But for the actual corporation that's running things behind the scenes, like in cases of child support, how do you, what is there a public entity that you can go to retrieve that information?
Well, all child support agencies are actually an agency of a municipal corporation. They're all of them. What the state does is they contract with the municipal corporation, and then the municipal corporation then creates and have RVBey. Actually, these tentacles, I'm calling them tentacles. They've always been there. People just don't know that. You go back to the 1600s, all right? What they first created, this is all corporate construct, all right? The Virginia Company was established with only 3 corporations on this land, prior to what we have today. You had the Virginia Company, the London Company, and the Plymouth Company. And they had control of the East Coast from Maine all the way down to Florida. Those were the only, today, the Virginia state. Today, Virginia had the middle portion. No, Virginia had from Virginia down to Florida, and then the middle portion was the London Company. That's now like New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and then the Plymouth Company was Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, all the way up to Maine. So that's all there was. Now look at what they're called today, and everybody thinks that there's something other than the corporations that they were when they were established. They're still those same corporations. And what's really crazy is that everybody thinks that these employees of these corporations have the right to dictate your life to you, when in actuality they signed on, the Union states, all the states signed on to the Constitution to protect what they all agreed. We will sign on to this Constitution, and we will make sure that the people's liberties are secure. None of the county, city, township, boroughs ever signed on to that. None of them. Ask them for it. Don't ask these municipal corporations. Ask the state. Ask them where is it that they signed on to the Constitution, just like the state. They never did. That's why when they say we never took an oath, they didn't. They're not obligated to follow the Constitution because they never signed on to it.
Yes, they are, though. They're obligated because that's
no,
the
they're
law.
not. No, they're like a Walmart. It's just like Walmart.
Yeah, but hold on.
What the Constitution does is it protects the people's liberty. The people are supposed to say no. Just like if you go into Walmart and they manhandle you, you're going to say, no, I'm going to sue you. You're violating my constitutionally secured rights.
Oh, yeah, understood.
That's all I'm saying. But Walmart never took an oath to the Constitution, just like no municipal corporation is on record as taking an oath to adhere to the provisions of the Constitution. However, the way you rope them in is because almost every single municipal corporation does not have a product or a service. And they try to trick people into thinking that they're providing you a service based on federal funding, but they're not. And then they try. It's like the schools. They tell you got to go to school. No, you don't. But if you don't go to their institution, they're not going to be able to substantiate the federal dollars that you're getting. So,
okay, I got you.
Right? So what the people got to know is when you go to these institutions and you say, I want you to do X, Y, Z, and they start talking about, no, I'm not going to do that, and trying to make it seem like you were supposed to be privileged. They're supposedly educating. Turn your volume down, Ron. You're supposed to feel like they're giving you a benefit when in actuality the fact that your child is in that institution, they got a head count. They got a head count before they even show up for the school term. They got federal dollars before they even came into the school for the new school term because of that person. So now the way you hold them to the Constitution is you going so fast that the state, because every state has a board of education, people is going to the municipal corporation, so-called board of education, and you're never getting any remedy because the state board of education is where you need to go and file your complaint. And then if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then you can take it to a federal level. But you don't never deal with the municipal corporation. I mean, you could. You could tell them, hey, I know what you're supposed to do, and I know you're federal funded, so don't act like you're doing me no favor. You work for me. I said this one time. I said, you work for me. I don't work for you. If it wasn't for me being here, you wouldn't get paychecks. But you don't have to be belligerent like that. I'm just saying. At that time, that's what it was called for. But you don't have to be belligerent like that. But you gotta know who is who. Because these municipal employees got everybody twisted. You got, I don't care what it is. Look, who was it I was talking to? I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me that they weren't getting some sort of a service that falls under Social Security. And I forget what it was, but most people don't even know that almost all kind of finance, medical assistance, all of that falls under Social Security. You know they're obligated to get that to you. Certain things that say, oh, you gotta show an alien card, you have to have a passport, you have to have a driver's license, all of that stuff. Do you know that the provisions say that they're forbidden from asking you for that stuff? But if the people don't know, then they will sit there all day long and ask you for that stuff. Nope, like I said, been saying for some time, nobody has even checked into what is this thing? The passport. Who's administering that? Everybody say, Homeland Security. Homeland Security is another agency. Before there was Homeland Security, there was immunization and citizenship and something. Immunization immigration and citizenship, something like that. I forget what the acronym was. But before it was that, that was the agency. Now that agency was defunct and it's Homeland Security. But I'm willing to bet that the previous agency probably was defunct because they got sued too much. Because whenever they get sued too much, they create a new agency, change the name, and the other one gets absorbed into the new one. Never fails. Islam Bakari, you saying something? I think Ryan was saying something too.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to be real clear that what you are saying is that it is not that they're not obligated to the law of the land, because everyone is. It's just that they, being a corporation, although we have been thinking they're a government establishment, et cetera, like that, when they really are not, which is what you mean by saying we need to know who is who. They are a corporation just like Walmart. So it's not that they're not obligated to the Constitution, law of the land. It's just that they may or may not have taken an oath to it to operate their corporation, because they are a corporation, but they still are obligated to it, which is the reason why you can sue them for violating it.
Well, I look at them like a Walmart. If you look at them like a Walmart, and see, this is the problem that a lot of our people have. They think that these municipal corporations are on par with the state, and they're not. So people have this expectation that they're bound by the same, and to a degree they are, but not like we think. For example, because they're a contractor of the state, they're bound. But it's different than a direct binding. If you comprehend what I'm saying, the state is like, for example, the state. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, I'm suing the." They when people get a traffic infraction, the one they try to sue is the state. The state will never give you a traffic infraction. And yes, the municipal corporations will put up their state of whatever. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking because they got state of whatever at the top, that's who's making the demand. But it's not. I submit documents. I have submitted documents where I put the state at the top too. But that's not who's submitting the documents. I am. But what I'm trying to clear up and make sure that I'm clear, and that the people listening are clear, you are saying that they are corporations, not government establishments that have taken an oath to the Constitution. Correct. That's what you're saying, that we need to identify them for who they are. They are just like a Walmart in terms of the fact that they're a corporation. That does not mean that they are not obligated to the law of this land. That's all I'm making clear. The law binds everybody. The law binds everybody. Right. So if and see what people need. Our people specifically, I mean, not just our people, everybody. It ain't just our people. So I've read some case laws that modern Europeans have put in, and the minute you put any kind of fictitious entity as the person you're suing, you've already lost. That is not possible. You've already lost. It's not possible. So,
and they're fictitious because they're a corporation.
Exactly. They don't even exist. It's like air. Oh, I'm going through the air. Good luck with that.
That is.
Well, so the other thing that you want to add too, though, and make it clear, whenever they put the state of, they're actually falsifying documents.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, let me just say this because I know there's some people listening to this. I want to make this clear. That is a falsification of information. It's a falsification of evidence. You know what? I remember putting that in my documents a long time ago, and I thought that, falsification of evidence and information is going on all over the place. It's bad. Everybody is doing it. Everyone. But when I first started putting it in my wrist, I thought that it only applies to the fact that I can have the affidavit, and they wrote me back talking about, I received your motion. It's so much broader than that. Yeah, that is a part of it. But on a more broader and more unconstitutional, borderline treasonous scale, when any of these municipal employees make a demand of income of you and try to impose citations and infractions on you regarding your right to travel, they are reporting that to the Department of Transportation, and at the end of their fiscal year, they're going to say, yes, we did our job. We issued X amount of driver's license and X amount of registration and cited X amount of people who violated the motor vehicle safety program. And yes, we're doing the job of administering this program. That report is going out, and that report is probably 85% of that report is fraud.
Don't forget to say, so please continue to fund us.
Right, exactly. But you can't go in there and say, oh, this is fraud. What you have to do is you have to produce documentation that shows the fraud without you saying it's fraud. You don't ever want to go, because I'm going to tell you why. It is fraud, but you can't say it's fraud because fraud says that you intended. And what they will do is they'll say you have to prove that they intended it, and nobody knows what's in another person's mind, so you can't prove that. You'll end up losing. Constitution, you got it sewn up.
Enforce the Constitution so that you are not molested by other citizens.
Yeah, and correlating with that, showing the fraud without, quote unquote, necessarily saying it. I mean, when it's time to call a flagrant foul, you got to call it. But that's why I stand on the fact that when they produce documents and they're saying the state of whatever verse, whoever, or, you know, in any situation, you know, my position, point blank, is Article 3, Section 2, jurisdiction. You know, since you're claiming it, all I'm saying is that the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. Bottom line, and that's calling the fraud without calling it, because y'all claimed it was the state. Point blank, period. And at the end of the day, and beginning of the day, this is what the constitutional explicit text is saying, that in all cases where a, quote, state shall be party. So going back to what you were saying earlier about the fictitious plaintiffs and all of that, you know, thing is, you're going to call it a fiction or fraud or you know what I mean, point it out. Like, look, this is the due process. you know, and they can play dirty. They can play real dirty in their conspiracy.
I think that's probably why Article 3 says that if it's the state that the original jurisdiction is there because of what we're saying, to protect that, you know what I mean, because they are definitely bound to the Constitution. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and they conspire hard, too.
Yes. Now, the word that I was trying to remember, it's ultravirus. Ultravirus is when it states that a flesh and blood being and a fiction enter into anything. That's the word I was trying to remember. Ultravirus. Look it up. It's amazing because everything that they do is ultravirus. That's why, you know, but you cannot follow them and use their same language. Let me show you how powerful the people are, all right? I'm going to try and use, and think of a good example because let me tell you, people, y'all are doing the damn thing. Y'all don't even know it. It just seems like it's not happening because you personally don't feel like, oh, I ain't getting no remedy. Yeah, the remedy was always there. But these walls are slowly crumbling away. It's like the veil has come down lower. And I say that because I remember when I first started sending out writs, people didn't have no problem. They eloquently scripted their name on the document. Yeah, this is coming from me. Yep, and an E-L. Boom. Now you get a document from the clerk, from the judge, from the prosecutor, or it don't have nothing at all. You go into these tribunals and people start talking. Excuse me, what is your name? And they will ignore you. Excuse me, what is your name? They will ignore. They don't want their name. They don't want you to know their name.
Mm-hmm.
Soon as you write in a rebuttal, I'm gonna tell you, soon as you put in a civil complaint, they can't even talk to you. Somebody else got to come in and do what they was going to do with you. Some of them will not even be in the building when you're there. Because why? Because people are losing their jobs. And this Justice Department press release is evidence of that. And it's because why? Because people have been rioting. People have been asking questions. It might seem like nothing is happening, but it is. It is happening. Because I'm telling you right now, this whole motor vehicle thing, it's about to dissipate. And this Justice Department press release just put another nail in the coffin. These municipal corporations have been here living off of the people and not in a good way, providing zero services and zero products, but extorting income all the time. And because we have awoken, finally, it's starting to come to a head. But look, this is an excellent conversation to go off with that. But we got like three more people, I think. Brother Bakari, thank you so much. I hope I gave you some food for thought, and some other brothers listening, I hope y'all got some food for thought.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Caller 386-302. I apologize. I was kind of long-winded, but this is. I think this is a really good conversation, and I hope we can get
everyone.
Hey.
Peace.
I'm calling from the corporate construct of Pennsylvania. I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now. We actually moved from the corporate construct of Florida to Pennsylvania. But I do want to thank you guys for all the hard work that y'all do, just putting out this information and the knowledge, helping us to learn more. And I just want to say, like, a couple of days ago, I always get, like, different videos, and I had got this video that came in, and it was from a European woman. She was describing how she had been driving without driver's license and license plate since 2003. And she finally, I think it was the year 2009, she got stopped by this policy enforcer. And, he kind of like took her through the drill, because she didn't come up in the system, and her car wasn't in the system. So he eventually he arrested her and impounded the car. And she was talking about when he was trying to look for her, the reason why he couldn't find her in the system, because she said that she had went to the DMV, and I was trying to look for the because I was taking notes, and I was trying to look for my notes, and I couldn't find them. But she said she went to the DMV and she filled out this form, I guess basically to cancel her driver's license and to opt herself out of the system. And she said that she did her automobile like that as well. And she said at the time when she was they had her in jail, the policy enforcer, I think she said her bond was like almost I think it was $900,000. And what she did when they gave her paperwork to sign, she signed authorized representative. So they wind up letting her out. And eventually, I think she said they just gave her $100 fine, but her car was still impounded. So she said she went to the impound, found out what forms she needed, and she basically bypassed the policy enforcers, and she did the forms herself and went back in and basically got her car out of the impound. But I think, too, she also, from what she said, she had a trust set up for herself. So I guess that was one of the things she used to get her car up the impound. I just wanted to tell you guys that. And then I had I have a question that I guess we have been, me and my husband, we have been trying to do our, what do I want to say? We've been trying to do our paperwork for the Nationality with RVBey publications. And we had it come back, and we had some questions on that, but I don't want to just go over it over here. I just want to, on the call tonight, but I want to see if somebody can either call me about it, or is there a number I can call?
I sure can. Well, there is a number, but I'll call you. I'll call you back.
But I just wanted to let you guys know about that video.
I can call you back after the show if that's not too late, because I'm sure I can answer your question.
Okay. That'll be fine.
All righty? All right.
Yep. And that's it. That's all I had to say.
All right. Well, geez, Liz just dropped off.
Oh, well. One of those nights. I wonder where.
Must be having a problem.
Now, when she was mentioning this European woman about her trust, she must be talking about she had her property in some sort of trust.
Mhm.
That's a whole different thing, I guess, where she probably just put the tow company on notice, because you can do that, and make them explicit in the in this fraud. And if you write to them properly, you can get it back because your conveyance, whether you have a trust or not, you don't need to have the car.
Exactly.
Right.
I was going to say that. I'm glad you said that. Because, there's a lot of people, and I hate to say it because the trust, back in 2008, it was everybody was jumping on UCC. Everything UCC, I'm doing UCC, this, that, and the other. The trust today is the UCC. I'm saying that because it's like everybody is jumping on the trust like it's their salvation, just like everybody was jumping on the UCC like it's their salvation. And what's crazy is I remember being told that a lot of Moors felt like, oh, I ain't got to declare my nationality or accept my name. That's all I got to do with the UCC. And people were selling it and promoting it all over the place, erroneously. And today, they're doing the same thing with the trust. Like, people are like, oh, I ain't got to study, I just got to do a UCC. Today, everybody's like, oh, I ain't got to study, I just got to do a trust, and you won't bother me no more. They won't be able to trade me and all this other foolishness. Here's the deal. And if you don't get it, it's all right. Everybody must know law. And the prophet did not say, if you don't do nothing else, create a trust. He didn't say that. If you don't do nothing else, do a UCC. He didn't say that. He said if you don't do nothing else, declare your nationality, meaning be clear of your lineal descent line, what's your bloodline. The nationality is based on your bloodline. The blood, contrary to what a lot of people have been mentally conditioned to believe, comes from your mother. So if you don't do nothing else, declare about your nationality. Think you came from your daddy's testicles, you're not clear. You're not clear at all, and you will be taken for a ride. Now, that's all the trust is documents affirming who you are and what your family lineage is. And, it ain't got nothing, really, it has nothing to do. A trust has nothing to do, the way everybody is using it, has nothing to do with family and bloodline. Has everything to do with commerce. But birthright theft is not a commercial activity. It's birthright theft. It's human trafficking, nationalization. And that's what it is. It has nothing to do with commerce at all. But if you make it an issue of commerce, then, these non-Europeans will rape you every single time. They will never, ever pull your coattail. Never. Well, some of them will if you're talking in an intelligent tone, but many of our people are so angry, they don't know how to talk in an intelligent tone. They don't have enough information to talk in an intelligent tone. So, we gotta wake up. We gotta thinking that, I don't have to know. Yes, you do. Look at our brothers and sisters around the world. The only reason that this is the last stand on this continent is because our brothers and sisters around the world woke up. They learned, they taught each other the law, and they all implemented it. They all know. They know it. You ain't never going to go over to China and somebody don't know how to defend their rights. They just, go here, read my trust document. Afghanistan, what they call Afghanistan, Iran, Iraqi, none of it. You're never going to go over there and somebody's being molested and here, read my trust document. They're never going to do that because they know it's in the heart. They know, like they know, like they know, like they know. They don't need no paper. And that's the way we got to be. That's the way we're supposed to be. That's the way we have to be. So let's take our next call. We got 2 more callers, and it is almost 12 o'clock. Call in. I'll be calling you back after the broadcast. Yvonne? All right. Okay, caller 518-833. You're live on the air.
Hello, good evening.
Islam,
good evening. I had a question. I also had a question about the nationality. I was running into an instance where I can't get no witnesses to fill out the form.
All right. All right. Well, I will call you about that afterwards, after the broadcast.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Alrighty. Caller 972-839. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Memphis. Islam.
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 Islam, can you hear me?
I don't think he's hearing you.
Islam.
Islam, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. You hear me?
I hear you.
Islam.
Yes. Yes, we hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
All right, so
this
is
brother.
E must be me, and she must not realize it because you can hear me, but you can't hear her.
Can you hear me, Ron?
I most certainly can. But
I hear both of y'all.
All right.
Islam, family. You see how it is, but guess what? We gonna win. I am Abdul Malik Sabir Shakur Bey. I'm calling from Northwest Mexican, the Texas Republic Territory. Once again, family, shout out to Anna Rosmaral, to Ms. Cujo, Islam, another great show you're having tonight. I would just like to state to the audience that's good to call in because we go to school and we fill up the classroom for the instructor or the teacher to teach us that we can learn and know better and do better and go past it on and make it a continuous, complete circle. I would like to put and state, do you know your rights? What corrupt politicians and lawyers don't want you to know about traffic courts? These are questions you need to analyze and look up. Most of all, ask yourself, do you know about color law and racketeering practices among cities and town politicians? By their using quasi-criminal traffic courts to deprive the people of their rights and their property. Second question, do you know the difference between a right and a license privilege? Question number 3, have you witnessed unlawful profiling in your community? Question number 4. The Supreme Court of the United States of America has addressed substantive law dealing with the substantive rights of the people. Now the question been asked and told itself. The Supreme Court of the United States of America, that's the highest court on the land. They didn't rent no building out. That's a lifetime job. They would place there under delegation authority order to serve people, which makes the state. The United States Supreme Court of North America, Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of American Republic, vested judicial powers and establishment of inferior courts. They created them, but yet they have to follow the guidelines. Here we go. Section 1. The judicial powers of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. Here we go. Listen closely. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices doing good behavior. Let me repeat that. They shall hold their offices doing good behavior and shall, and stated times, I'm going to put it in there, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. They're there. They have a delegation authority, or they are rightfully and properly by judicial law put in play to what? When the people come into a judicial branch of what government of the uniting of the states of America, they are put in place that the law correctly will be administered. Now, whereas there is no question that a bitch summons, a detention, an arrest, a ticket, or citation issued by a corporate and policy enforcer, that's what they is, policy enforcer, police officer, or by others for parking or traveling with no driver license. You're traveling on your own land, but somehow they take you to what? To learn how to operate a vehicle, driver's education. Why not traveling education? But we are stuck on that, and we have entered into their premise that they would have abounded and captured in their philosophy, coming up under their jurisdiction and giving up our right. The United States Constitution, Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against what? Unreasonable searches and seizures. shall not be violated. You shall not be violated. Why are we being violated? Because when we enter into these courts in front of these judges and lawyers, just because they have not taught you law, the correct language of law, and then you will find out that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Now, Article 6, the Clause 2 and 3 of the United States Constitution, Clause 2. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all the treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or the law of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Now, heading to my conclusion, this is very, very important. It is important and necessary to address the use of the straw instrument as a tool for power of attorney over you. And your child, the natural flesh and blood being, you must disclaim power of attorney. Ain't that something? But essentially, that is what is operating and working against you, because your ignorance have allowed those corporate entities to walk in your life to control what you, as a flesh and blood being, natural person, but this is the key. Are you in your proper persona sugeris? Now, going to the end, essentially, that is what is operating and working against you. And that is a fact. And that is what X-Rail remedies. Now, if you don't disclaim it or rebuke it, which must be done in proper status, what's your name? James Johnson? Sue Maryland? I don't think so. You've been branded, and now you are property. And you wonder why the dysfunctions and the circumstances and the mishaps are happening to your life, because you are being controlled consciously and unconsciously by those who have made a ploy and a plot keep you ignorant of who your foremothers and forefathers were, which you are today. And that is Moorish America. Islam, family. I relieve the flow.
Islam. All right. All right. So let's see. Our last caller. Before I take the last call, I just want to once again say, let everyone know tomorrow is Wednesday. It's the third Wednesday of the month, and we will be having class at the National Theater. The instructor will be RVBey. Doors open at 6:30. Class begins at 7:30. So make sure and send just some information. Thursday we have Sons of Allah let's see, the broadcast begins at 9 p.m. So make sure and be there on this Thursday. All right, our last caller is caller 443-376. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwestern Mexico. Islam, caller 443-376.
Peace for greetings, Islam. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No problem. All righty. Peace for greetings. I am Hassan Ghazi Obey at Northwestern Maxim. How's the family?
Good.
Hope you guys can still hear me.
Yes, Mom.
Can you hear me now? Islam?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. It seems like
right.
something's going on with the hearing. But, yeah, Islam, peace and love.
That's indeed. I was calling because I've seen seen one or two families face the foreclosure issue, even though we all know it, that's just a crazy term, foolish term actually. But what would be the suggestion for those that are facing the banks sending out barristers to put things in municipal venues so that they can remove people and their families from their structures where they're, laying their heads at. So what would be the suggestion as far as for protection for those? And let's say they have, quote unquote, I guess have their nationality card, for lack of better words. What would be the suggestion for the family out there that's facing the foreclosures as far as protecting themselves?
Well, when you say they have their nationality card, that doesn't mean that stops a foreclosure, right? Oh, exactly. Okay. I just wanted to be clear because it's a claim that they have to answer. It's like a lot of people think, oh, well, I have my, and I don't think that's what you're saying. I just want to make sure it's clear that just because they have their card, because these people are making a claim against them. Now, most of the time in the mortgage thing, they're actually foreclosing on the contract, not on the land. That's the first thing that people have to understand in terms, right, and it's the contract that they're foreclosing on because they don't have a claim to the land. And so, many people, it's a lot, it's not really a lot to it, but it's a concept that must be clear what the person is dealing with it, because especially if they went into the contract, originally went into this mortgage death grip thing, for real, and they went into it as, and they weren't conscious of who they were or whatever like that at all, or had any information, they're still foreclosing on the paper, not the land. So there it goes right there. In terms of them doing their response in a timely fashion, in correct words, and then ultimately, really, it's a federal situation. And many people, they stay, as we said tonight, they stay in the smaller venues, going toe-to-toe with the municipalities trying to steal your stuff instead of taking it into a higher court where it belongs, or federal where it belongs. They will sit and argue back and forth in a municipal venue, and it's the wrong place because they're just going through the motions of the paperwork that has to do with a contract. So that person that's dealing with this must come constitutionally, must, and most Moors do not. I think, you'll find that to be true. Indeed, exactly. Indeed. And then, yeah.
So, Ross, so here's my next question, right? So let's say, okay, now there are nationals that are acquired. It's my last two questions, but they all have to deal with the topic of shelter. So the third one's going to be pretty easy because I kind of have it out in my head, but I'm asking because I know that there are people listening that won't probably, ask this question aloud. So I have no problem asking it. Let's say someone is going to so-called sign what they think is whatever deal to get whatever new structure they're going to be resting their head in, let's say tomorrow. And this is really hypothetical. Let's say tomorrow, right? Isn't there some way for them to be able to stop the quote-unquote real estate agent from being able to do what they normally do within 72 hours with the so-called alleged mortgage? Isn't there a way that these people could, is there a suggestion in the way or strategy? Because the cognition is always great. Me being an HVAC technician, though, by trade, getting the hands-on is always just as good as the cognition, so that both can be comprehended effectively. What would be the suggestion in people, claiming the deed, I guess, for lack of better terms at the moment, so that they won't have to eventually face the foreclosure after that 72 hours that, after them allegedly signing that document?
72 hours after signing what document?
Like after, say they sign the so-called mortgage or whatever, right? And then after 72 hours, it's basically traded on the New York Stock Exchange. How is that to be prevented in strategy? Like, what would be the suggested strategy in preventing that? Would it just be reserving their rights on the documentation?
Well, I mean, if you read that document, I mean, it's completely out of order. I mean, you can get a house whether you exchange something for it or not without a mortgage company. All right? Wow. And so if you really read the document, it makes you it turns you into a tenant. That's what that document does. So, what level of consciousness are you at when you even sign the document? In other words, people think the only way I can get a house is if I get a mortgage, and that's their first wrong thought. That's what they think, but that's not true. So it's like if they consciously sign it and then 72 hours turn around to be and come a different way, I'm not sure if I'm clear about your question or what, but they're going to, if you make this agreement with them, they're going to foreclose on that contract. Period. It's just a paper. If you don't meet up to whatever you just agreed to 72 hours ago. But if you're going to do that in 72 hours later, you're going to pick apart. Because the only way that you're going to show the fraud is to show the fraud. And where is the fraud? In the contract. Yeah. But most people miss the fraud in the contract. What is the word? A mortgagee, which means you have something to offer. And then quickly in the same paragraph, it turns you, who has something to offer, into a tenant. And then you sign that. So I think we need to be aware of that. And I would say putting mortgage companies out of business, but the truth of the matter is they already are. You know what I mean? It's already done. It's just done already, but people keep propping it up by going to them to do the mortgage thing. You know what I'm saying? So there's different aspects to this. You're talking about this thing on a contract, and there's people who are talking about, they already foreclosed, which is on the paper, and then they're like, well, how do I claim? There's three different things, but all the same thing. So, in all the same thing in the perspective in which you look at it. So that's really what's happening. And, then there's all right, they're foreclosing on the paper, and, they don't even have the original contract. They never, they, like you said, 72 hours, it's gone. So now there's nothing to talk about. It's sold. It's done. It's gone. And so how can they hold you to that when they can't even produce it, produce the issue at hand, which would be the contract? They can't even come and produce it. So if you did have a question, if you did scope through it 72 hours later or whatever, and you did have a challenge with that, or you wanted to create the challenge, Well, if you don't know why you're creating a challenge, then you can't create the challenge. If you're going to create the challenge on the fact that the contract itself is fraud, then you're going to pick it apart. So you have to have strategy. If that's what someone wanted to do, sign a contract and then 72 hours later, use, I guess, some sort of strategy to come out of it, well, then they would have to know exactly what's wrong with the contract to even be able to do that. Right. Because then at that point, if it became an issue, then, and because at that point, if it became an issue, it would be a matter of, okay, let's produce the contract. And now you already know they can't because they just got rid of it. They monetized it. They can't even produce the original. And you certainly are going to come in and produce it. So it's a matter of strategy in that respect. And, it's a lot of things. I'm sorry,
go ahead, Mother. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I have a little problem with my volume. So it's a matter of a strategy if someone is aware that they're going to make the contract and 72 hours later something's going to happen and, they're going to, so they would have to have strategy about that if that's what they're going to do. But because the whole thing is based on a foreclosure, of so-called foreclosure of a contract, not of the land. So, again, I say mortgage companies are dead. They've been dead. Matter of fact, they've always been dead, but they literally are gone in terms of their legality and lawfulness. For real. But if someone comes over and they make you this offer to do this and you do it, then you just propped it up. So, because MERS, MERS, that was one of the biggest, transferring companies. They already made the rule that it's electronic. It can't have any validity.
Right.
You know? So
I was getting to the whole allodial title thing in that question, but you answered it though, like without saying the allodial title. You answered it by saying strategy. So I totally get it.
See, there's no such thing really as an allodial title. Not really, not really, because the title is in the name, which is the RVBey. That is the true title. Yes. That is the true title.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And when they do title searches, they are only searching to see if an RVBey has claimed their stuff. So that's the title. A allodial title kind of doesn't exist, not really. It's just a claim. It's just a position.
Indeed.
It doesn't really exist because this is all granted and you're an inheritor, and you're the beneficiary of that inheritance that was already granted. So if you don't know that, you can't go in and take this position because you're Moorish. You can't do it unless you know those things, period. Because that's the way in which you have to come from that position. So, and then you know that the title is the RVBey. That's why if you go to the land records, which are hidden and down in the basement, that's where you find the ills in the bay.
Indeed. Mother Roz, I know you guys got 5 minutes, and I want to say this last thing in probably 30 seconds, right, to resonate with what Ms. said earlier about how the earth will even claim the abandoned structure by growing around it, right? I was saying that that resonates so very well with some of the research I've been doing here near the Baltimore Corporation, where there's like about 2.5 blocks of abandoned structure with about 11 plots of land, too, that I think would be ripe for farming once the ground is tilled correctly. But most city of municipalities, and it harmonizes when Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, go to the city hall and go to those that know law. Speak an intelligent tone, and I'm sure they'll be glad to render you a favorable reply. They have these programs for these vacants, and some of them may be titled like vacants to value. And that's just, speaking on the terms near the Baltimore Corporation, where they're actually 0.00 when you look at the price that it says for the abandoned properties, the lots, and everything. So I just wanted to say that Ms. is definitely.
But you got to watch the fact that if you agree to those, they also, in their agreement with that, they're setting you up to pay taxes. So as long as you don't fall for that part, then fine, because that's what they usually do. And then when you do that, that's how you never own it, and how they have another way in to take it from you.
Islam. And I yield the floor. Thank you so much, Mother Rod. And it was an excellent broadcast.
Just be careful of that. Peace and love.
Indeed, Islam. Peace and love.
Islam.
Well, that concludes this broadcast. Make sure and check us out tomorrow for more Fears in History School, and tomorrow and Thursday for Sons of Oath. Peace and love.
Our problem is lack of knowledge and the intended deceit and trickery done, because even those who read the bibliotext that you call the Bible says he shall fool even the most believe. So even those who think they're highly educated and this and that, they've been fooled. That's it. It's not really complicated.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it, to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows except those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. The gods are back, the Moors are strapped. We waking up, and we want our land back. Running off, that's a trap. You know them gods don't like that. Waking up from a nap, like where the hell my crown at? Take a step back, like I know this bitch ain't bite back. It's kinda crazy how this karma it strikes back. We enslaved Islam, so they slaved us right back. We called them niggas, then they nigga this right back. We brought them to light, but they ain't bring that right back. If I was lazy, dirty dancing with the baby, then just maybe won't revolt like Haiti. I too smart, Lova, Tor, Marcus Garvey, your ass. Nova, Julia, our leading God, body the man. Now I ain't gotta be bad, and you ain't gotta be mad, but the planet is heating up, so the first I'll be last. I got that melanin that's better than anything you ever medicine. We at your front door, wonder why you never let us in. Oh, I get it, you never wanted to put some credits in. Well, just forget it, cause I don't know if you can edit sin. We've been enlightened long before Thomas Edison. Skeletons to prove that you wasn't even relevant. In the Caucasus Mountains, cause the sun was your